Welcome to the Shields on Hoops podcast. We're coming to you guys on Wednesday morning after the Syracuse loss to Gonzaga. The Orange are now 0-2 in Hawaii, and they'll play Chaminade tonight. And yes, I'll be up at 9:30 p.m., maybe even later. It depends on how the other game's going, watching Chaminade. And hopefully things will go a little bit better. So we're going to talk overall thoughts real quick. I'm here with co-host Nick Peckham, as always. We'll talk a couple overall thoughts. We'll talk offense, defense, player breakdowns, and we'll give you a brief look at Chaminade, which, forgive me, I'm not going to clip clips of Chaminade, but I will try to get you guys something either tomorrow or the next day. Just some video of Syracuse in their two games against elite competition, right? Elite competition, which is a great kind of measuring stick for the Orange. Nick, let's have you kick us off. What are your overall impressions after two games in Hawaii against top 10-ish opponents and how the Orange fared?
So first I'll start off by saying, obviously, as many know, Benny Williams did not touch the floor yesterday for Syracuse. There's a lot of reports going around that I've heard some saying he was injured, back issues. I've heard some say it had nothing to do with an injury. What I've seen on Twitter, per an SU spokesperson, and they quoted, "It is not injury related." I don't know what that means. Obviously, Benny's had a very rough start to his junior year. High expectations for Benny coming in after the way he finished last year. Was suspended, 3 games, 1 exhibition game and 2 regular season games. Only played 9 minutes against Colgate. Played 20 or 16, I think, 16 or 20 against Tennessee. Scored 8 points, looked like fairly better. And then to not see the court at all today was kind of disappointing. When we know more, we'll let you guys know more. But overall thoughts, I don't know, honestly. I understand it was very elite competition, 2 top 10 teams, 2 teams that could make the Final Four easily. But it's kind of disappointing when you hang around in both games and these teams just flick a switch towards the end and go on these crazy runs. It was a 12-0 run the last, I want to say, 4.5, 5 minutes against Tennessee when it was a 5-point game. And it was a 19-2 run against Gonzaga that ended it after Syracuse kind of hung around for a little bit. So you got to be a little proud that they hung around for a little bit. Obviously, the Tennessee game, I think you can take more positives away from that. They played fairly better for 35 minutes of that game before Tennessee kind of closed it on a 12-0 run. But the Gonzaga game, it started off very sloppy. Syracuse got down early. I think it was 9-2 at one point. And they just couldn't really put a run together to make it closer than 6. It kind of teetered between 6 and 10 for most of the second half. I know when you look at stats, Judah had a very good game stat-wise, but when you actually watch tape and break it down, there were some very disappointing things that we noticed from Judah. We will clip things, like Brandon said, either later today or tomorrow, and show you what we were talking about Judah. But defensively, I thought they took a major step forward in both games from especially the Colgate game and even some of the New Hampshire game and Damon game. But offensively, there's a long way to go for this team. And we'll talk about them trying to inbound the ball underneath the hoop because that's been a struggle this year, mightily. We've given up 3 to 4 layups, I think, going the other way on inbounds plays, which should never happen. Some teams that happens 3 times a year. We've done it 3 times in 5 games. So that's obviously an issue. But like I said, I think defensively they definitely took a step forward. The Tennessee game, to me, you take more positives away than this game. But we'll see what happens tonight and moving forward. But just know that this will and this should help Syracuse in the long run, playing 2 teams like this. Obviously, Syracuse was probably feeling pretty good about themselves, 3-0. heading to Maui with a nice 24-point comeback against Colgate, even though they shouldn't have been in that position, but they did come back and win that game. And to come out and lose 2 games like this, especially when you were in them, is definitely heartbreaking. But hopefully they learn from this and they see what they have to work on, and that's what we do when we get back to Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, like they hung around and they did some things, but again, I'll be that guy that goes the other direction with it. Since you're always Mr. Optimist in the end. Like, okay, but Awaka didn't play a minute against Syracuse for Tennessee. Connect didn't play most of the second half against Tennessee. And yeah, I mean, I guess you could say Judah was out the first half against Tennessee as well, but that wasn't full Tennessee. And they played like just they played terribly. Some of that was Syracuse's pressure. I think Tennessee was a little surprised at the Syracuse kind of effort level. They thought they were just going to kind of do what they wanted. But it was both games where it was kind of like, it's kind of like when you are playing one-on-one with your little brother, right? And like, okay, some things get by, and then now it's like, okay, well, it's time to like step on the throat now, and then you just absolutely hammer your little brother. Like that's what it kind of felt like at times. That teams were kind of like, okay, well, let's just go ahead and close this thing out, and they did. And part of that was Syracuse, and part of that was the opponent. I will say that I some things. I'll talk non-basketball stuff real quick, and then I'll talk basketball stuff. This team doesn't seem to have the experience or leadership or even age, right? So guys like Jesse Edwards and Joe Girard are gone. And even when you had guys like Jimmy Boeheim and Cole Swider, okay, yeah, sure. Those guys I wouldn't call them dynamic leaders or even Buddy, right? They weren't like dynamic leaders, but they were old. And they were battle tested. They knew enough of how to play in certain games. And this team, especially when you compare them to this field in Maui, which obviously we're the worst Power 5 team in the tournament by far. All right, and that's okay. It's a great field, but like those teams, the way they operate and the way they go about business and the way they play is a vast contrast to the way Syracuse is playing right now. And you can use the argument that this is Red's 5th game. They're a bunch of young guys. But again, but this stems back to, I think, a combination of Red figuring things out a little bit. And also it stems back to Boeheim in the last 5-6 years. We just got behind, guys. Like we are behind, right? We're still behind. Like in the way that we do things, like, do they practice hard? I'm sure. Right? Do we play pretty hard? Yeah. But like the culture is just not what it needs to be when you step on the big stage, right? Okay, cool. Like we can play NC State and Wake Forest and Boston and Pitt and all that stuff, but like you can see it. You can see it when we play Duke. You can see it when we play Carolina. You can see it when we play those top tier teams on our schedule, that the difference is palpable. Like it's obvious to me, right? I watch a lot of basketball otherwise. Yeah. And when I watch the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC play, it's just like, man, how do we compete against? We can't right now. We can't, right? And now good news is, right, like hopefully, Donnie Freeman and these guys coming in, like hopefully we have some guys coming in and we'll be older next year. Like those are all great things. But bottom line is right now, this team still has to play. All right, this team still has to win games.
Hold on before you go, just to piggyback off what you said, because I love that statement. And I know a lot of people are like, well, he retained most of his roster from last year. But you guys got to realize a lot of the guys outside of Judah, and maybe I won't even put JJ in there, but outside of Judah, a lot of these guys didn't get minutes on last year under Boeheim. So this is their first real college basketball experience for the most part. I mean, outside of maybe Chris Bell. But Chris Bell didn't really get those minutes last year either. So, like, that's what you got to realize is Judah played, 38 minutes a game most nights next to Joe Girard because they didn't really have another option outside of Symir. But, like, this is a lot of these guys' first real 20, 25, 28 minutes of college basketball night in and night out. And you look at these other teams and, like, we'll go Tennessee. They have 3 fifth-year guys. They added a transfer who was the player of the year in with the Big South, I think it was.
Guy.
Big Sky. And then we'll just go down the line quick. You look at Purdue. I watched that Purdue game last night. They brought back the National Player of the Year, Zach Edey, and they brought back their whole starting five, and they added a couple transfers. And then you look at
Duke brought back Filipowski.
Yeah.
UNC brought back Baycott.
And then you look at like Kansas, they go out and they add Hunter Dickinson. They bring back McCullough, Adams, Harris. So it's just things like that. Like, I think eventually down the road, we'll get to a point where that's what we do. But like, you have to realize a lot of these guys come back and work because they have a chance to win a national championship. Mm-hmm. Syracuse, we our leader, and we'll get into leadership later, but our only junior on the roster can't seem to get it together and can't play in a game. So we're relying on freshmen and sophomores to really try to take a massive leap that they're not used to at this point. So that you have to realize that. But yes, this team does need to figure it out, and they need to figure it out quick if they have any expectations for this year. But I just wanted to piggyback off that because I know I see a lot of people tweet about, well, Syracuse brought back a whole bunch of guys. Yes, they did, but you got to realize a lot of these guys didn't. Even JJ, I know he started at Notre Dame, but Notre Dame last year was filled with juniors and seniors. So, like, JJ was kind of that learning curve. He was just got there. He's learning the system, and then, bam, now he's got to come somewhere else and learn something, a brand new system and things like that.
And yeah, exactly. And, like, when the roster was being assembled this summer, like, these are the concerns I was like, and I'm not trying to say I know everything, but like these were my issues. Like, okay, yeah, we're bringing back guys that never played. Yeah, we picked up some dudes, but JJ Starling is coming off the second worst team in the ACC last year. Naheem McLeod was on the bench for the third worst team in the ACC last year. These other guys are unproven. Benny, unproven. Like, only, like, yeah, Judah and JJ have good numbers, but like, I think everybody was just like, oh yeah, we're back. We got Coach Autry. We're going to ditch the zone. Here's the thing, guys. Like, you can't just wake up and play man-to-man. All right. It doesn't work that way. Like, and that's another thing you're seeing, right? That's another thing you're seeing. You're seeing these programs that have continuity in how they play and how they defend and how they want to do things offensively. It is just it looks random for Syracuse. It looks random defensively. It looks random offensively. It looks like lack of identity. And that's what bothers me and worries me. Yes, it's game 5, but it's like, what, practice 75?
There was an interesting comment in the post game yesterday. Adrian Autry made a comment. They asked him about JJ and Judah, and he mentioned we focused a ton on trying to get, and this is his quote that got tweeted. We focused a ton on trying to get our defense together, so our offense is a little behind. They do have the chemistry and the confidence to figure it out. They don't like losing, and neither do I. So we will figure it out no matter what we have to do. And that's a big thing. Is a lot of things like you just mentioned. Syracuse is coming into this year, and they're running a whole new defensive philosophy. It's not the 2-3 zone anymore. They want to play man-to-man. They want to press you. They want to get into you. So I'm sure a lot of their practices, and you got to realize it's college, so you can only practice so many hours a week for most times, and you can only do it's not the NBA where you can go practice for 4 hours a day. There's a certain period in August where you can only practice, I think it's like 8 to 10 hours a week, and you can only do these little things. So you're trying to put this together, a whole new scheme, a whole new system in this little time. So you may focus on defense a little bit more than offense, because you know at the end of the day, if you can be a good defensive team and you can hold teams to, we'll say, I don't know, 50, 60 points in today's college basketball, you should figure out offense as you play, right? And you know it, and as long as I know it, college basketball, a lot of the times it's the same. All these teams are running the same offense. They're just running different things off of it. I know, like, I coach high school basketball freshmen, and I coach AAU, and we run an offense called 4 out, 1 in, or 5 out, where you just space the floor, you pass, you cut, and that's what a lot of these teams do. You space the floor, you pass, you cut. If you have a big man, you can throw it into him, let him go to work every now and then, but that's a basic offense that a lot of these teams in college basketball run, and they just play off of it, and they know how to find the angles, and they know when guys are going to cut and things like that.
Yeah, it's a balance though. Like it's like, okay, yes, we're learning on the fly, and there's new stuff, but you still have to produce. Like you still have to produce. Like you have to win. The point is to win, right? So you have to do things that put teams in the best position to win. And I understand that the offense might be behind, if we want to call it that, but you should still have something that resembles an identity.
Yes.
It doesn't feel to me when I watch the games that I know A, what they're trying to get, B, who they're trying to get involved or how, and what is the end goal? Like when I watch, and then I hate to harp on other teams and how they do things, but like it is blatantly obvious when you watch most games what the other team is trying to do and accomplish. And with Syracuse, it's like flip a coin. Like whoever ends up to get open gets open, and let's hope they hit a pull-up jumper or they hit a one-leg drive fling off the rim. Dear God, please blow the whistle so we can shoot some free throws. Like, and there's a couple things that go into that, right? There's no inside presence. Shooting was atrocious on yesterday. So it's like, okay, if you have nobody to throw it into, if nobody can make a dang shot from three, like you can't turn the other team over. What do you do? You go to your bread and butter and what you run offensively and how you do, and we don't have that. Like if we aren't beating you off the bounce or turning you over, and I said this before Maui, if we aren't turning you over or getting stops, which we are doing neither of those things right now, like teams are turning over a little bit, but like if we're not forcing turnovers and getting stops plus rebounds, like we have to play in the half court. And when we play in the half court, it is not very pretty. It is not very pretty right now. Like there's like, I'll say this, it seems like there is more movement and there's a little bit more ball reversal and there's more like initial alignments, but like they're so simple and easy to guard. Like there's nothing like, so I do think what they are trying to do is better than it was, but at the same time, it still feels a little aimless. And there's 12 seconds. Judah or JJ, come get the ball. Okay, Naheem set a ball screen, even though you can't roll to the rim fast enough, and you can't pop. That's just kind of the way it feels for me offensively. Defensively, they're just extremely undisciplined. They overhelp. They either overhelp or don't help at all. They go for stupid gambles on the perimeter that force 5-on-4. Look, we can't beat these dudes 5-on-5. We ain't beating them 5-on-4. No. Why does? And here's the thing: like, yeah, we want to pressure, but like teams that, and again, I've coached, you've coached, like teams that if you're not as good as the other team, you want to try and make things as hard for them on the offensive end as possible. 5-on-4 ain't it? Okay. No. So taking that risk and play on 5-on-4, yeah, no, I'm not gonna. Those aren't the odds. Why do you think UVA, when they don't have the guys, is still pretty good defensively? They run that pack line. They know what they are doing. They know what's allowed to happen. They know what the standards and requirements within that defensive scheme are, and they know that they will ride the pine if they don't do it, right? I was thinking the other day, how do we fix rebounding, right? Is it rebounding drills? No, it's not rebounding drills. Like you have to listen. You have to play harder.
Listen, like you have to play harder. You play 5-on-5, right? There's 5 guys on offense and there's 5 guys on defense. You know how you fix rebounding? You find a man and you put your body on a man. There's so many times that I watch Syracuse games, especially this year, where there's 2 or 3 guys just staring at the ball. So when you crash the glass, we watched a clip earlier where it was their power forward and their center going up for an offensive rebound against Quadir Copeland. And no, that's no disrespect to Copeland, but like
he was battling.
What are you going to do at that point? You're not going to out jump their center and their power forward. Like, and there was we watched it. It was Judah, Chris, and JJ, or no, sorry, Judah, Malik, and JJ, and they were watching the play. Like, this is why we get out rebounded. Yesterday we had 28 rebounds, and Gonzaga had 48. We got out rebounded by 20. You're a Power 5 Division I team. That should not happen at any level. Okay, now. You have to, and it was one thing when you made the excuse when we played the 2-3 zone, how it's harder to put your body on somebody in the 2-3 zone, and I get that, right? But we rebounded last year better in a 2-3 zone than we are playing man to man.
Well, not really, but like it's barely better. Which we all assumed it would be like drastically better. Like, right? Like we all assumed that, like you said, oh, this will solve all the problems, and it's a little bit better this year, which is hard to imagine and fathom, which shows you how bad it was last year. But like we're still like, I think right now, all right, hold on, it's not pretty. Last year they were so bad that you had to get better. Like, so last year, as far as defensive rebounding rate, which is you getting at like how many possible defensive rebounds do you get, right? So like not allowing offensive boards. They were 347 out of 362 last year.
Holy
This
shit.
year they are 312 out of 362. So they jumped up a couple of spots. Like I would, man, it's bad, right? And they're not offensive rebounding either. Like the statistics outside of taking care of the ball and not turning it over are really, really bad.
And,
Like
and one other thing I want to point out that you mentioned turning teams over and things like that. And yes, if you look at the team stats for yesterday, Syracuse had 13 turnovers. Gonzaga had 18, right? So they turned the ball over more than we did. But you have to look at dead ball turnovers and live ball turnovers and how many Syracuse had off the top of my head out of their 13, 4 of them turned into points on the other end. Where Gonzaga, when they turn it over, it may bounce off their leg and go out of bounds.
Yeah.
So you still get to go back and set your defense up. They're not turnovers where you're scoring off of that.
Not all turnovers are created equal. Syracuse is the worst defensive rebounding Power 5 team in the country right now. The worst. That includes Stanford and Cal and Vanderbilt and Boston and Georgia Tech and Utah. And, like, but the worst out of 5 games, right? The worst. Okay. So anyway, yeah, those are things I want to see. Identity. I want to see the little things done right. And who knows, maybe Red and company fly back from Maui. They sit down, hit the film room, and we see something like change, right? Maybe like this is a great chance for them to do that. I don't know. I think this is going to be all year long, but that's just me.
So while we're talking about rebounding, I'm going to throw something out there. So I sat down last night and I took notes on what I watched from the game and things like that. So one of my things that I wrote down is without knowing about Benny, because obviously Benny can't stay on the floor. Benny can't do the things he has to play in a basketball game. That's a whole nother story, okay? If you don't want to be part of this team, then don't be part of this team. I'm at the point now where I know what your upside is, but your upside is not worth not knowing if you're going to play or not. And you're basically at this point, you're hurting the team more than you're helping the team. So if we take Benny out of the equation for right now, because who knows what's going to happen? Maybe he plays tonight. Maybe he doesn't. Who knows at this point? I have a suggestion, and I want to know what your thoughts are about it. So I kind of tinkered the lineup, okay? So Syracuse has a very big rebounding issue, and they have a big issue of defending the paint and scoring in the paint. We're probably one of the worst Power 5 school at that too, stat-wise, because we can't defend the paint and we can't score in the paint to save our life.
245th in 2-point percentage. Oh, sorry, that's not. No, yeah, okay. I will say this before you say that, like when Syracuse has been able to force tough jump shots, that's been pretty solid. But like it's that but there's been way too many putbacks, steals for layups, easy drives as well. All right, keep going. Sorry.
All right, so we've talked about starting lineups and things like that. Obviously, we've talked about Chris Bell. Chris Bell's the guy that is going to shoot the ball, right? Chris Bell's not going to we've said it. If Chris Bell can give you 20 points or 16 points and not get a rebound or assist, we're happy with that. So you can't play Chris Bell at the 4 and expect to be a good rebounding team. And that's what he's done the last couple of days. So this is what I look at when I think of a starting 5 at this point in the season. Obviously, you go Judah, JJ, and then I'm going Chris, and then I'm going Malik and Naheem. I think Malik playing at the 4 in his natural position is going to help him and help the team in the long run. But I also think it helps on the defensive rebounding gives you another guy who doesn't mind getting in there and rebounding next to Naheem. So with that being said, obviously that changes your whole rotation in the long run. So obviously that would move Justin to the bench. So your bench would, at this point, probably look like Kyle, Justin, Cope, and I think at this point, now that we've seen Hema play, I think Hema has to become part of this rotation because you cannot play in games and not have a center come off the bench. This is why and this no disrespect to Malik because I think Malik's played his ass off at center, but he can't do this against teams like this.
He can't help what his body is.
So do you think moving forward that Syracuse should consider putting Malik in the starting five?
I mean, it's tempting, but like offensively is where it worries me. Like,
but we're not. So like when you think about it, right? Like look at what Justin's done in the 2 games he started in Maui.
Yeah, but
he has 0 points and 1 assist.
He's a threat though. You got 2 guys who can't score outside of 3 feet on the floor for Syracuse in that lineup. Like I like it. I guess that just depends. Like what problem? Like which hole do you want to plug in the wall? Right? Like, do you want to plug the hole of we're not rebounding? Or do you want to plug the hole of because then it becomes an offense. Now they only have 1 guy to kick it out to. Right? Like Judah and JJ only have 1 guy to kick it out to. And it's even more reliant on them to use ball screens and score. I don't know. I mean, it's tempting. I would like to see it. I'd like to see it on the floor and see what happens.
I think the big thing you have to realize is, or not realize, but I think the big thing Syracuse has to realize is they have to find roles for these guys. These guys have to know a role that they're in, right?
Yeah.
So like,
and pause. And then when you don't fill your role, you sit. You sit.
Yes.
That was going to be my solution to rebounding. By the way, you sit. You don't rebound. Okay, bye. You sit.
Like this plug and play, and I get it. Nobody expected Benny to be suspended and Benny not to play this early in the season. But the plug and play, I think, is hurting the team more and hurting Red because Red is trying to figure out rotations and lineups that work, and you can't do it.
Out there. Yeah, you don't know what your team's going to be. So like, yeah, like the same things I'm frustrated about are also things I'm like, well, what do you do? You know what I mean?
So
that's a bad place to be.
So like, I only say that because like. I think you move Justin to the bench and you sit down and you talk to Justin, right? When you get in the game, this is what you need to do. You need to shoot the ball and you need to score. I don't care about anything else. Obviously defend, but that should just be natural at this point.
Yeah.
But I want you to come in and I go back to this. There was this was probably 10, 12 years at this point, but there was a time when we had Dion Waiters come off the bench and he averaged like 25 minutes a game, and he averaged almost 13 points a game for Syracuse, and he was 6th man of the year in the Big East that year. So, like, these are the little things that you have to do. Like, Justin, come in and just look to score. Be aggressive. When Justin starts next to Chris, I feel like these 2 guys, like, I don't know what it is, but it feels like Justin's scared to shoot the ball at times. Like, yesterday he was, 0 of 5 shooting and 0 of 3 from 3. So like
ugly.
Yeah, and like there was I think 2 of them that smacked off the backboard.
Yeah. He's not. Yeah, he's been struggling on the island. That's to say lightly. And yeah, he's been rebounding at least. And here we go again. Like this is the same stuff from last year. So okay, if you play Bell, you lose rebounding. If you play Taylor, you lose maybe a little bit more offense. Like because Taylor's just still pretty one-dimensional right now. He can kind of hit a pull-up now and then, and he had some nice drives against like the lower competition. But Bell has been able to at least get into the paint a little bit and make some plays and score in different ways, like shot fake and drive and score. Like he's at least doing that. But it's so varied based on who is doing what because there's no consistency, right? Like Chris Bell had 2 great games, right? Probably the 2 best string he had as a player. And then he was like just absolutely horrendous shooting on yesterday. So it's like you can't play him if he's not scoring. But then you put Taylor in, he's not scoring either. Then you put Copeland in, but he can't really score. So it's like now the weight is once again on Judah and JJ to put their head down and make a play because there's nobody to throw to inside. You don't have Benny out there at all, which would be fan-freaking-tastic.
You don't have Benny. You don't have Chance. You can't really play 3 guards.
And I'm not saying Benny is an All-American player. He's obviously not. He's not an All-ACC player. But like having somebody else out there who can do something that's beyond like just catch and shoot three and stand 2 feet from the rim, like having a guy who can kind of play in that mid-range and make a play and rebound is beneficial. And beneficial, get it? But
and
like
it's crazy to me, like how Chris Bell, like, I don't know if it's just like Chris Bell has the athleticism, he has the length to be a good rebounder. So I don't know if it's just
at least serviceable.
I don't know if it's like a physical thing, like he doesn't want to bang in the paint to get a board. Like I don't know what it is, but like there's times where you watch and he just like he won't even go near the rebound.
He just kind of spectates. Yeah, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that thing that Taylor just kind of naturally puts his nose in there.
Yeah,
and Bell he's been doing it a little bit better, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not there. Like Taylor and Copeland both have that. I'm gonna put my nose in here and get this ball kind of thing, but they're both limited right now offensively.
If you could combine Copeland and Chris Bell into one player, you'd have a decent player.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Yes, that would be fantastic. All right. So real quick, we'll talk about players. So the guards, we'll go. So Judah again had a good game number wise. He was very key in that. He was very key in keeping Syracuse in the game. He made some big plays. He had a heck of a take. That little looped, that was sick. He did things. He played well enough offensively, right? Defensively, he was pretty bad in that stretch where whatever that run was that Gonzaga went
19-2.
Like he had 2 or 3 times where he went for steals and didn't get it, and it was 5-on-4. He had a couple plays where he just kind of quit on the play because he turned it over. He had the turnover where I think he dribbled off somebody's foot or something weird happened that led to a dunk. He had and I don't know whose fault this is. He had the throw it over the top turnover for a pick six layup. So he had some like little things like that in the end that were not good. And some of it was just, I don't know. I don't want to use the word whining, but like just kind of like the body language wasn't what it needed to be. And I think for Syracuse in general, that was true. Like when it got bad, like, cause they were right there. They didn't play super well. They still battled. They still kept it close, but then they had again, but this is what happens when teams aren't that good, right? Like it's in every sport, football, hockey, baseball, like a team will hang around a little bit. And then the superior talented team will be like, okay, well that's enough. Now we're going to go ahead and take care of things. Like upsets happen, obviously, but that's just the vibe. All right, well let's crank it here, right? Gonzaga's like, okay, let's crank it here and do what we need to do, and they kind of took care of it. So I thought offensively, I thought he did some things. He shot the ball better. I'm not really worried about like sometimes he does some crazy stuff. Like I'm willing to live with with whatever usually the offensive mistakes that Judah makes. I can live with most of those. But it's the reaching in, it's the allowing the defender to get by you. Like, and it was this, now, again, I hate talking about Joe Girard all the time, but it's the same thing. Like last year, everybody gave Joe so much flack for the top of the zone and it wasn't good, but Judah was up there too. And Judah was letting guys go by him too. Right. And he's doing the same thing this year where he's like just relying on his athleticism. He's not playing with his feet, right? He's not playing with his feet. Which is surprising because again, he's like Chris Bell, like Chris Bell should be a great rebounder. Judah Mintz should be a great defender. Like he should be locked down. He's strong. He's long. He is active. He's athletic. He understands how to play. Like he should be a lockdown guy, but he wants to make all those highlights and get all the steals and do all that stuff. And I think that's what gets him in trouble. JJ was better, I thought, yesterday than the Tennessee game. Pretty steady. Just looking at numbers, like, right, what was JJ? He was
15 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 6 of 15 shooting.
Yeah, I mean, not great, not terrible. Probably played second best. I mean, his plus minus was -28. Oof. Chris Bell, like we said, was 2 for 18 is just
1 of 10 from 3.
Very, very poor. Other guards, we'll consider Justin Taylor a guard, 0 for 5. So Bell and Taylor, 2 for 23, 1 for 13 from 3. So it's like, okay, game 1,
2 rebounds, 1 assist.
Yeah, game 1, Bell played well, and Judah and JJ did not. Game 2, Judah and JJ probably played well enough. Bell and Taylor were terrible. So it's like Kyle Cuff didn't do anything. He was 0 for 3. He scored 2 points, had 3 fouls. That man fouled like a fiend. And your other guard, we'll call Quadier a guard too. 1 point, 0 for 2, 5 boards. I mean, Judah did have 5 turnovers, and some of them were in not great times. So the guard play was not. And I mean, when you look at that, like the only reason Syracuse is in the game is because Mintz and Starling did produce offensively. They did score like 37 of the 57 points. So anyway, your thoughts on the guards? Anything else you want to add to that?
Honestly, no. I think you hit it on the head. I think one thing I'd like to see from JJ at least is just kind of be more in of attack mode. I know like he kind of picks and chooses his spots where he attacks, but you have the body type to go through contact and take contact and things like that. I thought he played better yesterday than he did against Tennessee, like you mentioned. But just be aggressive at all times. Like I know you were 0 for 3 from 3. You shot 1 3 when we were down 9. That I know the shot clock was running down and things like that. But like just when you get it, attack. Like that should be these two guys' mindset every time they're on offense is putting their head down and attacking. Even if you don't have it, attack a little bit. Like there's times where you watch other point guards where they attack and they know they're not getting to the rim. But just putting that pressure on the defense gives you opportunities to kick the ball out and things like that. So just be on the aggressive side of things on offense. Obviously, Justin, I don't know if he left his offensive game in Syracuse when they got on the plane or what, but Justin does not look like himself. Chris had a great game 1. Couldn't hit the side of a barn yesterday.
Struggle was real.
2 of 18, 1 from 10. I mean, those are the things where you look at it like that's where it would have been nice. I think he played 36 minutes or 35 minutes. But at the time you had no Benny. So Chris Bell had to play that. So that's another thing where it comes in, like not having Benny kind of hurt the team a little bit more yesterday because maybe you can take Chris out and kind of settle him down and things like that.
It's like Gerard last year. It's like, okay, yeah, he's playing 35. Who else is going to play?
Yeah, that's
like,
what it.
Okay, I mean, he's the best of like bad or no options. Like, and I like Chris Bell's game, but like when he doesn't play well, who's going to? And there's no Benny, and there's no Chance. Who's going to play?
Yeah,
you're going to give Cuff 35. You're going to give Cuff 30 minutes. He's not good enough. He's not there yet. Like it's just what are the other options besides? Well, keep shooting because we need somebody who's going to shoot the ball. Like
one thing I will say about Quadier, I thought Quadier played overall a good game. He didn't shoot any threes, thank God. He was 0-2, so he only took 2 shots. But like you said, he doesn't mind sticking his nose in and rebounding. One thing that really disappointed me yesterday, we had 6 assists as a team. That's got to be higher. There's no question about it. Got to be higher. Especially when you have 2 guards like JJ and Judah, like 6 assists. That's what one of them should get a night.
6 assists on 23 made shots.
Like, and they mentioned it in the broadcast. By the way, Bill Walton, can't listen to him ever call a game again. He didn't know dudes' names. He was talking about
how this guy gets paid.
How Syracuse should bring back dudes from like the 1980s to come play. He mentioned Dave Bing and like Lawrence Moe, and like these guys have been gone for so long. But like, I don't know. Like I said, Chris, like 2 of 18, like, and we talked after the game, and when you go back and look at Chris's shots, none of them were really like open or in the rhythm of the game. It felt like he forced a lot.
Yeah, that was the first time. It almost seemed like the coaches were like, "Hey, hunt your shot, right?" It was like the first time I felt like he did not let things flow.
And it seemed like a lot of times he caught it and it went up.
Yeah,
like it might have been early in the shot clock, it might have been late in the shot clock, but like as soon as it touched his hands, it was flying. And like I love the aggressiveness, but like when you're 1 of 10 from 3, you got to realize that it's not falling. Let me try to get to the free throw line or something to try to.
Yeah, let me see it go in another way somehow.
Yeah. But we'll go on to bigs. Naheem, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 4 blocks. He got abused early.
Oh God!
It
set the tone for the game, really.
Graham Ike kind of went at him 3 times in a row and scored, and he went to the bench pretty quick with 2. He had a stretch in the second half where he made a huge difference. He got a couple blocks, looked kind of good, had a dunk, had a nice pick and roll where he actually rolled, got the ball, made a dunk. Malik, I thought, played good. He had 4 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, had a nice dunk where he dunked on Watson from Gonzaga off a pick and roll with, I think it was Judah.
Yeah.
Hema played 3 minutes, got a technical foul because he wasn't in the scorebook. So we lost a point there. But, I mean, I thought Hema played okay in those 3 minutes. I don't know why they took him out so quick. I would have liked to see a little bit more of him. But there's not really much to say about the bigs. We got out rebounded by 20, so clearly they didn't do their job. But
I agree. I don't really have anything else to say about the bigs either. But let's look at some Syracuse, some stats real quick, right? So Syracuse, 36 of their 57 points were in the paint. 17 of those 17 points off turnovers
for Gonzaga,
for Syracuse, and lost by 19.
So we shot a good 12.5% from 3. We were 3 of 24, and crazy stat, Judah actually hit 2 of the 3. So when Judah hits 2 of your 3 threes, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, and points per possession, 0.803, which is garbage. Gonzaga, 1.118. So that, there you go, right? Gonzaga, 44 points in the paint, 15 points off turnovers, 25 second chance points.
That was a killer.
17 offensive rebounds, 18 fast break. There's just no.
It seemed like every time Syracuse cut it to 8 or 6, we got the initial defensive stop and we couldn't secure the rebound, and they scored off of that. Yeah, and those are just backbreakers.
The little things. Yeah.
Syracuse did shoot 8 of 10 from the free throw line, so they kept that streak going of teams shooting really good at the free throw line against Gonzaga. They were 80%. Yeah.
Kept that alive. That's good. That's good. You're welcome, Gonzaga.
But
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Syracuse is now 127th in Ken Palm.
So they dropped 15 spots, where they won at 112, right?
Syracuse started the season at 105.
Okay.
After New Hampshire, they dropped to 109. After Canisius, they dropped to 111. After Colgate, they dropped to 116. After Tennessee, they dropped to 119. After Gonzaga, they dropped to 127. So a steady fall. They've got 2 top 70 games coming up here in a row after Chaminade. They got LSU and Virginia. And Cornell right now is 102 in Ken Palm. So there's that. That Cornell game is not a given, just by the way.
So another thing I wrote down of things that I would like to see more moving forward. I know we've talked about it. Obviously Syracuse isn't a very good defensive team right now. We can't really score in the half court. I think I would love to see a little bit more press. And it's not just to turn teams over. I think Syracuse has to try to get in a game where they can get out in transition and run. I feel like that's Syracuse's best chance at scoring at this point, is getting out and running.
Even forcing a quick shot rather than letting teams just shoot layups.
Yeah.
Half court. I
think it helps with your athleticism and things like that. Obviously it sucks not having Benny, because Benny is a huge part in everything they do, everything they could do this year. But
should be.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I got. I thought it just sucks when they play well enough to hang around but can't play well enough to win one of these 2 games.
They're what's getting done to them is what they used to do to teams. Syracuse used to do that. Syracuse used to be the better team, and teams would stick around, and then they'd be like, okay, that's enough, and go win the game. It's flipped. It's flipped. We are so not there. I just think we're more behind than people think we are.
No, we are.
And I don't think it's a red thing. I don't think red is the reason why they're getting smoked, right? Part of it is 2 top 10 teams. I get that. But again, they have not looked good all year, honestly. They should have lost Colgate. They've beaten some not very good teams, and that those weren't super pretty either. So like I just think as a program they are behind, and I knew they were behind, but I think we might be even more behind than I thought we were. That doesn't mean the season's over. That doesn't mean they won't make progress. It doesn't mean they won't get better.
So this is one thing that I think people need to realize about college basketball. It comes from a recruiting standpoint at the end of the day, right? And like if you look at the last 5 to 6 years, outside of the 6 guys that we had last year come in, we really haven't recruited very well.
We've lost out on a lot of guys that we wanted.
Yeah. So like, I mean, you look at like for 4 years we had Buddy and Joe, we had Jimmy transfer in, we had Cole, we had Jesse here for 4 years, and then Jesse left. Joe for 4 years, and then Joe left. Like we really haven't recruited at the point to where we can get kids in and have them grow in the program. And now that puts you back, right? So now we're I know it's a new age in college basketball where anybody can transfer and just go wherever they want, but like I think that's one thing that we're going to have to jump on next year. Obviously we have 2 really good guys coming in. We're still kind of recruiting a couple more for next year, but like it starts at the top, right? Like
they have to next year get a point guard in the portal and a big who can like play on both sides of the ball in the portal. They have to, or nothing will change. Like Judah's gone. Okay, Judah's gone. So like they have to get a point guard. Cuff can't play point guard. JJ can't play point guard. If you want to like win like important games, like they aren't the guys for that.
Just look at like perfect example. Look at what Gonzaga did. They went out and got Ryan Nemhard and Graham Ike.
Yeah. And I realize we're not Gonzaga right now. We can't just do that. But there are point guards. There are centers who can do things. Because again, it's not like not like a lot of All-Americans are out there. Like just we're just behind. We're behind those positions.
There was one guy that I really wanted Syracuse to go after that really wasn't like it wasn't like a Hunter Dickinson or anything like that, but there was a guy who transferred out center from Oklahoma State, Musa Sisa, who kind of did it on both ends. I thought he would fit Syracuse really well the way he played.
Ole Miss, right?
Yeah, obviously with Judah coming back, like you had your point guard spot kind of settled, so there really wasn't a need to go get a point guard. But like this should have been the year that Syracuse really went out and got that veteran, right? That the dude like that went to Tennessee, or like just somebody like that who can not only score the ball but like has that leadership. Like they said he went to Tennessee because he knew offensively his game was NBA ready, but he wanted to be coached up on the defensive side of the ball and really get hammered, and that's why he chose Tennessee. That's what we need. We need to go build that culture and things like that. And I think Red will. Obviously, it's early. It's only 5 games. I know there's a lot of people who are like,
that's to be determined. We'll see.
So,
yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's too. I think it's too early to tell either way for sure. Yeah, and again, like it's balanced, right? Like like I'm obviously frustrated and would have liked to seen more in this Maui trip. But at the same time, you do have to realize what's going on, and like it's this fine line between like accepting where things are and not being okay with it, right? Like it's that fine line of doing both, because they can both be true, right? It can we are not ready, we're not there yet, we're behind, can be true, and so can we're not doing things the way we need to do to be successful. Those can both be true, and that's kind of how I feel right now. I feel like the time, like, I don't know. I feel like the time to be finding your identity should not still be right now. I know it's early in the season, but it just, I don't know. It's what's alarming to me is the lack of identity. And when it all comes down to me is the lack of identity and the lack of doing little things. And that's what I think is going to be the toughest thing for Syracuse to overcome if they want to be successful in the ACC this year, which obviously they do. So yeah, that's all I got, man. Unless you got anything else.
They play Chaminade at 9:30 tonight on ESPNU. You just hope that this team just comes locked in and takes care of business. You never want to let a team like this hang around to give them hope that they can win this game. You just got to hope that after these 2 games that this team, it seemed like at the end of the game yesterday, guys, the body language was not where it should have been. I know you lost, but there was a point where Chris Bell got a tee at the end, sat down, and like was kind of getting into it with Quadir Copeland, where he had to put his arm around him and kind of cool him down. There was a time where Judah and I think Red, coming off the floor during a timeout, kind of got into it a little bit. But just things like that. Like, you just hope that this brings you closer together than pulls you apart at the end of the day. And they come tonight locked in, take care of business, leave Hawaii with at least one win, come back 4-2. It's not the end of the world. You lost to 2 top 10 teams. It's not going to hurt your resume at the end of the year. But like you said, they have outside of Niagara in their non-conference, they have a tough non-conference to finish out before ACC starts play. Play starts.
Yeah, it's going to get easier, but it's not going to get like a walk in the park. Chaminade, real quick, they got smoked by Kansas and UCLA. Both of those games, it seemed like Kansas and UCLA got ahead pretty early and just kind of put their foot down and coasted the rest of the way, let their bench play, let their guys rest for the tournament. So we'll see how Syracuse does. It should be a win for the Orange. Hopefully we can like work out a couple of the kinks, but I wouldn't take too much from this game unless they somehow found a way to not win it. Like, that would be the only thing that would be something that would be worrisome. We'll take a look at them tonight at 9:30-ish tip. You know, the way it goes in these tournaments, it could be later than that, depending on how everything else went. Usually you finish with the championship game, but I think ESPN had like a football game or something else lined up to where programming wise, they had to move the championship to like 5. So I believe the 7th or 8th place game is like the third to last game. The championship game is the second game of the day or something like that. So like, I think they got like 13 hours between games for the winner bracket games or something like that I saw, which is kind of crazy. So regardless, 9:30-ish tip, 4:30 over there in Hawaii time. That's it from us. Like, subscribe, follow, do all the things you do. And we will see you guys for a post Chaminade pod. And then we'll start turning attention towards LSU and the ACC Challenge on Tuesday, right around the corner. No rest for the weary. All right, that's it from us. On behalf of Nick Peckham, we're out of here. See you guys next time. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.